The relationship between people can be classified as two kinds. There's conscious relationship and subconscious. When we talk about subconscious relationship, we mean that people can be connected to each other in a subconscious way. By this, we mean that when you know people, example in your family or in your job, people are connected in a way that when you have a kind of attention between one people and another people, you have two levels of attention. You have a conscious level and a subconscious level. The subconscious level is maybe higher than the conscious level. When, for example, I've seen this example last week, a mother was talking with her child and wanted her child to pay attention to her. I mean, she was trying to give the child a kind of clear message, a kind of saying to the child, you should do this and not do this. And in this situation, the child showed that he was not looking at her mother in a direct way. So the mother was a little bit angry, feeling that the child was not listening to her. In fact, and really, the child was listening to his mother, but not in a way that the mother could expect. I mean, in this kind of situation, you have a contact, and a subconscious contact between the mother and the child. And when the mother is saying something to her child, even if the child is not looking directly to his mother, there is a kind of effect. And when the mother knows this point, that she has a direct effect on her child, she can say in an easy way what she wants to say to her child. If she wants to tell him something or to transmit a kind of message to her child, she can give it in a very comfortable way. Mean that in this kind of situation there is a global attention between the child and the mother. And you have the same situation in different contexts. When you have a kind of contact between people, I mean in their family or their job, when there is enough level of contact between people, in this situation you have a link between them, which means that one can easily feel that the other person gives a kind of global attention, and you can notice and you can see that you have an effect on people. And this effect can be of different kind. You can have a direct effect by the way you're saying things, you're talking, really it has an effect, but at the same time one could learn and could see and notice the subconscious effect, which is very important to notice and to see. When someone gives you a part of his attention in a situation, it means that there is a link and the person is in a kind of state of alert between you and him. It means that if you are going to say something or to make a kind of movement or to do something, it will have an effect on the person. It will have an impact on the person. So we can see and we can feel and we can learn that it's very important to be clear with this point and to feel very clear and comfortable with this element. I mean, everyone can learn and can see his own kind of communication. There's an idea which is a very false idea, and I mean it's coming from the conditioning, meaning that people can say, someone can say, I don't know how to communicate, the other one has a better level of communication than me, I should learn communication like the other one, or I don't know. It's kind of a situation where you make a comparison between you and other people. Really, a point which is very important and clear is to notice and to learn that everyone has his own way of making communication. And when one learns and feels that he should and he could learn from himself his own way of making communication, I mean, there are people who like talking, people who are more in a kind of movement, of behavior, people are more in a situation where they would like to use their eyes or their voice, and on those different ways, different media of making communication. The important point is to feel comfortable with this and to see how I feel comfortable when I communicate. That's a very important point. And when one is very clear with this element, one in this situation will transmit in a subconscious way a very positive and very useful effect to the situation. In the other way, if you don't feel very comfortable with your way of communication and making the communication, it will affect people, it will affect the situation, because you will transmit the same thing. You will transmit the fact that you're not very comfortable with your way of making communication, and this point will be transmitted. So, if the point that you want to do and that you want to achieve is to help a situation or to transmit a message or to give something very useful for other people, the basis that we could see and we can easily learn and feel is to feel comfortable with your way of making communication. That's a clear and important point. And when we see and we talk about the fact that subconscious communication is very important, we mean that when you say something to someone, in your family, in your job, every kind of situation, when you say something to a person, and when there's a kind of link between you and the person, you will notice at the moment that what you're saying will have an impact on the person, an effect. And if you can remember this information, that this communication, this subconscious communication, is a large part of the communication between human beings, one can, with time, with attention, with memory, remembering that being clear with this point, and also remembering and seeing that if you feel comfortable with your own subconscious way of communicating, it will be a better situation for you. I mean, sometimes you find a kind of inner conflict. The conflict comes from the part that, in a way, you want to communicate in another way because you think that you should communicate in another way, and in another part you have your subconscious part of your brain, a part of conditioning, saying that I could and I should learn how to communicate in a different way, and you have a kind of conflict in this situation, and this conflict can easily disappear if one progressively and with time can learn and can notice that he could or she could accept that one has his own way of making communication, and that there is no conflict to have between you and yourself. I mean, sometimes in a subconscious way between one and himself, there is the idea that we have some kind of model saying that he or she is very good in communication, me, I'm not so good in communication. This is not useful, because in this way you have a situation of inner conflict. The other situation that we are trying to push and to say and to notice is to accept and to be confident in one's way of making communication, and one with time and with effort and with exercises making communication, you will notice that when you accept that you have your own way of making communication, you will have another impact, another effect on people, because at the same time, when you feel comfortable with your way of making communication, the other people who are next to you will notice this element of being comfortable with your way of making communication. So it maybe sounds like a basic point, a very, very simple point, but very important. So, to end what we are saying now, we could easily remember that the subconscious communication is a large part of the communication between people, and one can easily remember and notice that the effect that we can have on people in a subconscious way is very important, and maybe more important than the conscious effect that we can see and notice in different situations. And last point, remembering that when people are connected, when there's a kind of contact between people, people will notice each other, what you're saying, what I'm saying, what I'm doing, what he's doing, in a subconscious way. So we have a kind of constant link between people. So what you're doing, what you're saying, will have an impact on a subconscious way, and this impact can easily be very positive, with this basis that your communication can and should be with feeling that you're communicating in your way of making communication and in a very comfortable way.